to the Millionaire Choice Show. Today on the show, I have got some really good stuff for you today from Jerremy Newsome. Jerremy is the CEO and founder of Real Life Trading. He is the author of Money Grows on Trees, so make sure you go pick that up at Amazon or any of your other little booksellers that you prefer. And his specialty is helping educate people on liquid assets. And for you people that don't know what that is, you future millionaires that don't know what that is the stock market. That is his specialty. And he has got a really awesome story. And I asked him to spare it for me or save it for me so that I can hear it for the first time on the show. So I'm eager to get into this. Yeah. Now, Jerremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tony, man. This is going to be a remarkable production. So thank you for having me on.
Well, I like the build up there. I hope it remains true once we're here after 45 minutes.
Definitely. Definitely.
So like me, you didn't grow up in money. You grew up in not with a silver spoon. And that's what I like the future millionaires on the show to hear, because sometimes it can be so easy to kind of like dismiss the fact that you can build wealth. And I think people have to understand that the majority of millionaires, I think 80% of them, are first generation millionaires. They didn't come from money. They didn't come from rich families. And you didn't come with a silver spoon in your mouth, did you?
No, man. Barely a spoon at all. More like a plastic fork, from KFC. So my family, we grew up 30 minutes south of where they filmed Deliverance in a small city called Cleto, Georgia. And I grew up on a river. It's still a dirt road to this day. It's a Macedonia Road down there. And I had a great childhood, man. Phenomenal. Loved every piece of it. I was just a little bit poor.
Just a little bit. You're living on the river that Deliverance was filmed on. I don't know that it gets a whole lot poorer than that.
Just a little poor, man. But I had a great childhood, and it all kind of changed from one exact moment in time. We were watching the movie Forrest Gump. This was 1994. And there's a part in the movie where he's kind of recounting his whole life. And dude, he's talking about all the good that he's done, all the great things, like he's building churches, schools, hospitals, he's pouring back, because he said that Lieutenant Dan invested in a fruit company and they no longer had to worry about money anymore. Well, dude, I'd never heard that phrase before. Never. Like, we don't have to worry about money anymore. That was just such a weird thing to hear. So I asked my dad, what is investing and what is this fruit company? So he told me a little bit about Apple computers, and he told me about the stock market. And I was like, Dad, this is what we have to do. We have to do that. Because he explained it to me. I mean, it made a lot of sense. He's like, people are going to be buying computers and they create computers. And at some point, computers are going to be all over the world. That's what my dad said. I'm like, well, let's do this. This is an obvious thing. So he's like, son, this is a movie, it doesn't really work that way. This is fiction based. And I was like, well, you're the smartest guy I know. And Forrest Gump's an idiot. So I'm sure we can figure this out. And
at 6 years old.
So he ended up telling me, he's like, listen, son, I'll match you dollar for dollar, whatever you bring me. And we'll buy some shares of Apple. And I was like, okay. So I go out with no resources other than just a drive, that's where millionaires are made, man. That's the choice that you get to pick. It's not your resources that's holding you back, it's your resourcefulness, because I was 6 with no money. I didn't have anything. So I go, all right, let's get it. I go and sell Blackberries. I pick raw Blackberries. I sell them door to door, and I make $1,500 that summer in 1994. Selling Blackberries, dude.
I thought you were talking about Blackberry devices, not actual Blackberries.
Actual from the bush, man. Like, pick them and eat them and sell them. And I brought $1,500 to my dad. He was blown away. Ended up borrowing the money from my uncle. So we bought $3,000 worth of Apple in 1994. They're presently worth about $14 million.
That is amazing. I love that. Now, I have an Apple story too, but mine doesn't end as well as yours. My Apple story, which some of the listeners, the future millionaires, have heard, revolves around my wife telling me to buy Apple in 2001. She tells me she told me twice, once in 1998 and again in 2001.
Yeah.
And because I worked for a certain person who only invested in mutual funds, I told my wife, no, honey, we're not going to do stocks anymore. We're stopping the stock investments. We're going to go to mutual funds only investments.
Right.
And I won't mention any names, but that was my logic at the time. If I had made a $10,000 investment in 2001, the last time I checked, where I don't want to check anymore because the pain hurts too bad,
Yes,
it was $1.4 million. So $10,000 into $1.4 million in roughly 18 to 19 years. And you did a little bit better than me. You turned 3,000 into 14 million. Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crazy part is, dude, it shows you the power of not only compounding investing, but it shows you the power that anyone has the ability to go out and buy ownership of a company. And that's how you make money while you sleep, is you own a company and you own something that literally builds over time without you being there. Right? Because it compounds, it grows, you're investing in an idea and a belief in a tangible asset, and that allows you to grow true wealth.
Yeah. And so let me, for everybody that's listening, as you pick your jaws up off the floor, if they're not on the floor, they should be, because you must have missed something that he just said. If you're not like laying on the floor, like knocked out right now. So let me give you a few seconds just to catch your breath. A 6-year-old kid watched Forrest Gump and turned $3,000 into $14 million. Let me say that again. Let me say it one more time. A 6-year-old kid watched Forrest Gump and changed the entire directory of his family's financial future.
Yeah.
And children's future for generations to come. All right. I said it twice. I'm going to say it a third time. A 6-year-old kid watched Forrest Gump and turned $30,000 selling Blackberries into $14 million. If you don't think you can become a millionaire after hearing that story, I don't know what else to do for you. I don't even know why I'm doing this show. I don't even know why I've put my life into this show and into my book, into everything I've done for the last, 4 years and the 15 years before when I worked for Dave Ramsey. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. If you don't get that message right now,
that's it, baby.
And you don't do something about it. Like, you don't do something. Like, today is the day. This is the day you make the millionaire choice.
That's it.
Make it. Like right now, we're talking to Jerremy Newsome. You make the choice right now. He didn't even know what the hell he was doing.
No idea.
And he grabbed a hold of an idea, and his dad discouraged him from it. He's just kind of like, hey, if you want to go do this, I'll back you up. You'll come up with $10. Go find $10. We'll buy some Apple stock. And they ended up with 1,500. His dad's probably crapping his britches going,
a little bit.
How did my 6-year-old kid find $1,500 selling Blackberries and go and make me like have to go borrow money from my, uncle, cousin, whatever it was, to go get this? That's a crazy story, Jerremy. How many times have you told that?
Man, far too many. And it still gives me goosebumps to this day, dude, because again, it is honestly the power of intention. It's the power of realizing you don't have to be the smartest person. You don't have to be the richest person. You don't have to be the best at math, right? To accomplish any type of success, you just have to have extreme intention. You have to know exactly what you're doing. You have to know exactly why you're doing it. And then you go do it. And just focus your time and energy and attention on doing that. It doesn't matter what it is, because people in the late 90s were also making $150,000 a year selling cell phones, right? I mean, just being a phone salesman, you were making $150,000 a year, and using that money to buy companies, right, could have done extremely well for you. Right now, there are opportunities in the market that are so fascinating and so incredible and so fast that it would just absolutely blow your mind. I'll give you some examples. So I took a $60,000 account that I started in April of 2020. So a year ago, less than a year ago. And right now it's $740,000. And it's because you're taking companies like Wayfair, right? Wayfair has gone up 900% since COVID. 900%. And everyone I tell, why do you think, or I ask the question, why do you think Wayfair went up so much? They say, Well, because people are at their house and they're redecorating and they're spending more time at their home and they're seeing the things they don't like. So they're buying more furniture off of Wayfair. Boom. I'm like, yeah, that's it. So that means that you could have done the exact same thing I did. Meaning you just take your idea, you sit down for a second, you ask a good question, and then you take that question, take that answer to that question, and you use that knowledge and you invest it.
Yeah. I love that. And it kind of reminds me of something I started doing because I came off after I left Dave's, I came off the mutual fund wagon and I'm going, okay, I started investing in stocks when I was 25 and I was making 60 to 90% every 6 to 9 months.
Wow.
But I just didn't have enough income to make that. And I was in that phase of paying off debt. Like I paid off all my debt between 25 and 27. And then I got engaged and my wife brought me a nice lump of $20,000 more in debt. And I'm like, oh, I was just finished and now I'm starting again. And so I spent the next couple of years paying that off as an engineer. And I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was making some. And I was investing at the same time. And I was doing about 50% in mutual funds and 50% into stocks, and mostly digital tech stocks, Intel, Dell, Micron Technologies, AMD, and a few other things that were out there at the time. And then 2001, I stopped. And then now I'm going back, at 50 and I'm going, okay, I'm entering a new era. The restrictions are off. What am I going to do now? Like, what am I going to do for the next, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years? Hopefully I'll be investing so I can pass it on to kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. And I love what you're saying there because it's the same approach I took back then, but I'm trying to refine that as I teach people. And one of those things I'm even teaching my kids, right? I'm like, hey, I don't want my kids to wait till they're 25 to figure out how to do money like, I did. I want them to learn sooner. And I want to learn from me. So I start with just going, hey, list down 10 things that you're kind of interested in, like companies that you might be interested in, like list them out. Just start with what you think you know. Just like my wife. My wife told me to invest in Apple. That's the best stock advice I ever had.
Yeah.
She didn't know anything about money and nothing about stocks. And I missed, probably several $1 million from very little money just because I didn't listen to her, and I didn't go do my research. And so I love your approach there. It's like, what do you know more than you think you know is what you're saying.
My man. Exactly. That's exactly right. You know more than you think you know, because generally you're told throughout life by whomever tells you that you might not be smart enough. You might not be good enough. You can't manage money. You're going to fail. You're going to give it all away. You're going to blow it away. Like you're going to do something really stupid, which obviously many people will. And I obviously did. And tons of people did and will. But the thing is, you're going to learn from those mistakes. And the most expensive mistake is the one you make twice. So learn from it, pick yourself up, go, okay, don't do that again. Got it. And you start making plans, you start making goals, you start making steps in the right direction. And then you're going to be an absolute machine because you have the power of the internet, right? You can sit down for an hour and literally learn anything, man, like whatever you want. And that's why I created my company, because there was a time when I was in my early 20s, so 19, 20, 21, where I wanted to learn the stock market. And there was really no one that was teaching it. It was very, very, very few and far in between. And the webinars and seminars that they did teach, it was like $60,000 sales pitches. And they were horrible sales pitches, by the way. So I was like, what if I just made this for free? Like, what if I could learn this and then just taught everyone and there was no price barrier at all? So that's what I did.
Well, I think that's a great move. I had to laugh with something you said, because you said when you make a mistake and you got to pick yourself up off the floor. And the immediate thought I had after you said that made me grin, you could see me grinning, is my mistake was only investing in mutual funds as my primary for 15 years. Like that was my biggest financial mistake of the last 20 years. Was only putting my money into mutual funds.
Sure.
And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
I had some outside influences there. But I'm like, I go back to what you're saying, because I'm like, I wish I'd stuck with my 25-year-old investment strategy instead of my 31-year-old investment strategy that was influenced by some other people. And so I'm going back to that, and so let's play that out just for a minute for the audience. Because I love the conversation we're having, because
absolutely.
Yeah, you love investing, and we've had different people. I've had different people on the show that do push mutual funds only, like S&P index funds. My only, and there's not a problem with that. Like let me just say this real clearly for the future millionaires listening.
Yep.
You can become a millionaire investing in mutual funds only.
Mhm.
You can do it. It's
Agreed.
going to take a little bit longer,
You can
but
absolutely
you can do it. And it is in some ways safer. But don't be under the illusion that it's fully safe, because, there are things that can happen, like, political things can happen.
Sure.
Governmental things can happen. Economic things can happen, but it's generally safe. But you need to invest at the level that you are capable and competent of. And that's where you get into problems. Like if you don't take time to educate yourself, if you don't take time to learn a little bit, then you can get a little bit reckless. Like, if you were in an Enron or MCI WorldCom or some of these other companies that did go belly up, there are ways to avoid the traps, because there's always going to be some level of risk, but there's also ways to minimize that risk. But you need to invest at the level that you are knowledgeable and competent of. But the reality is the barrier is a lot lower than you think. And I think that's what I love about your story, Jerremy, is like, a 6-year-old doesn't know a whole lot about stock market investing. That you didn't have like a tremendous amount of wisdom or knowledge or at that level. But it turned out really well for you. Now, I'm curious, though, as we're talking about this, when you started at 6, so your dad probably opened up some kind of custodian account or something like that. Did you invest in other things from like age 6 to age?
Nope.
It was just Apple. So
Didn't
one investment?
Didn't know anything else, man. Really. Knew nothing else, because along the way, what ended up happening is we go through multiple, I mean, like the tech crash in 2000. And like my dad was an investor because he had a 401k, and he was a pharmaceutical salesman, and he just didn't understand it. Like he didn't know what was in there. He didn't know what he was investing in. And so he saw all kinds of roller coasters, 2000, 2008. Many of your listeners probably went through the same thing. And when you're in certain mutual funds, I mean, you can have multiple periods of like 3 or 4 to 5 years where you're only making maybe 4%, if not negative, if you don't make anything. And they still take your money regardless if you make money or not. So my dad, one thing that I love my dad so much. He passed away 6 years ago, but his legacy will always live on, because my name is spelled with 2 R's, as you know, and my dad's name was Jerry. So it goes from Jerry and me, Jerremy. That's how my name came to be. So my mom is a very creative woman, and
the women are right when it comes to naming the children.
She thought that was fun. And so he told me, man, about the age of like 13, he was like, Jerremy, the one thing you need to do in your life, the one thing you need to make sure you do is understand money. Learn money, because money is the one thing that I haven't mastered in my life. And he's like, and it's made me broke, but you have to understand that the power of your network is the power of your net worth. And if you want to make a lot of money, surround yourself with people smarter and richer than you are, and you'll become rich. And so it was great advice, man. And so like age 16, 17, 18, I started reading like Think and Grow Rich and Richest Man in Babylon and Influence Your Friends and, Andrew Carnegie, and just start reading all the giants, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, and just going down that mental awareness, that mental awakening route of just learning all the things that are out there about finances. And it just started shaping my beliefs, because at the age of 20, that's when I started realizing that many people can do what's called a self-directed 401k. Not everyone, but some people. And a self-directed 401k is, even when you're at work, you're sitting there, you can sell all of your shares that you're in, and you can be in cash, and you can self-direct it through the fiduciary, and you can actually trade whatever stocks you want through your 401k. And dude, once I learned that, it was game over. That's when everything started changing and everything started happening for me. And it was just, I haven't stopped since.
I don't know if that's when everything changed. I think everything changed when you were 6. I think that's when everything changed. I think more changes. I think more bigger changes came. Yeah. And I love what you're saying there. So let's explore it. So I'm retooling. Like I'm going, some people, and I've had people ask me that, like, Tony, I'm 46. Tony, I'm 55. Is it too late for me to become a millionaire? And I'm like, hell no. Like this little 6-year-old kid became a millionaire. He didn't know jack. I've met people. It takes, from what I can tell, it takes about anywhere from 10 to 20 years starting almost from nothing, that I've seen people become millionaires. It's really that range, and it's going to happen faster for some people who are probably more high D personality types, who are more aggressive. Maybe they grow their income a little faster so they can, they have more money to work with to invest. A little slower for some others who are, a personality type that's a little bit more lackadaisical, not quite as intentional. But 10 to 20 years from the people I'm talking to seems to be the number that keeps coming up once you make a millionaire choice. So like for you at 6, you didn't call it a millionaire choice, but you were making a millionaire choice at age 6. And I've met another
I've never been
guy,
told that. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. And I've met another guy who did it at age 5. And the reason he did it is because he couldn't buy, his mom wouldn't buy him a candy bar at the store. So he's like, I got to fix this problem. How can I fix this problem? I know when I grow up, I'm going to be rich. That way I don't have to worry about not being able to buy candy. Boom. And he's a millionaire at age 25. So it doesn't matter if you're young or old. What matters is the choices you make. And what I tell people is, if you're in your 40s or 50s, do you think you're more capable and more knowledgeable and more cash flow and more established in your career than a 6-year-old selling Blackberries?
Bingo. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, so take the excuses, put them out of the window, start making millionaire choices, start making better life choices. Start finding a purpose for your wealth, a purpose for why you're working. I wrote an article last week, but I'm really just starting to tell people this kind of stuff because it's, now it's really fun. It's one thing when you're working for somebody else like Dave to kind of help him get his message out, his 7 baby steps. Now I'm going, okay, what am I going to tell the world? What am I going to say? And here it is. You're going to work from age 16 to age 66, about 100,000 hours or more in your lifetime. So let that sink in for a minute. 100,000 hours of work that you're going to produce. You need to be asking yourself the question, what you're going to have to show for it after you put out that much effort. Because there's a lot of people out there who have 0 to show for it after 100,000 hours of work in their lifetime. And that's the decision we're trying to make here. It's not that you're pursuing wealth or you're chasing money, what some people get hung up on. Tony, I don't want to be after money grubbing. I don't want to be money greedy. It's not about that. It's about making better life choices and better money choices so that you can end up in a really good place for those 100,000 hours or more that you're going to work in your lifetime. You work too hard to end up broke or to struggle or to not be able to, live life and help people the way that you want to, to support your family. And that's really what you're working for. That's your purpose, is to go, I need a purpose for my money. That gives you an excuse for some of you people that are hung up on getting wealthy, to give you an excuse to build wealth. You can do more good in the world by having more money than having less money. People who are broke versus people who are rich, who's got the most opportunity to help the single moms, to help the orphans? It's the people with the money. They're the ones. And right now, I think the too many bad people got the money and too few good people do have it. But let's go back to your decision. So my where I was going with that is where I'm changing my own strategy around investing a little bit. And I'm really going back to my roots at 25, where I'm going, okay, half my money I'm going to put in safe investments. Maybe that's land, maybe that's real estate, maybe that's mutual funds. The other half, I'm going to get really, really, really aggressive at sticking it into different stocks and spreading it around so that I can hit those big opportunities like an Apple. I got into crypto about 3 years ago. Now I had to sell some of it off because I needed money. I stuck about $150,000 in crypto. Let's see, about November 2008 is before Bitcoin jumped up to 20,000. I got in at about 6,500. I bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, and then needed some cash. So I had to sell some of it off. So I regret that. I've still got some that I expect to hit pretty well. But that portfolio went from 150 grand over 90 days to 460 or 70,000 within 90 days.
Yeah.
And then, obviously went down as fast as it went up within the next 30 days. But that was a risk where I'm going, okay, if I had a mistake that I made there, it was not that I invested in cryptocurrency, is that I probably didn't invest in cryptocurrency at the level I had aptitude at that moment, because I was just starting the learning curve. But now I'm like, okay, lesson learned, pick yourself up, dust off a little bit. And, what's the next thing you're going to do? And so talk to me a little bit about what you're doing with your money and where you're putting it, like your investment making decisions, because you're obviously spreading yours around in lots of different opportunities, I'm guessing.
It's a great question, man. And I will definitely answer it. There's one reason why I call it liquid assets is because I never use the word safe. Safe investments. I don't think that there's such a thing. I think that there are investments that pay a certain return, and there's some that don't. And for me, liquidity is incredibly important, because it doesn't matter if it is cryptocurrency, or if it is a stock, or if it's an option, or if it's a business, or if it's yourself, right? There are always investments that you can make. And for me, to answer the question, I do focus primarily on investing into liquid assets. So stocks, cryptocurrencies. I don't trade currencies, so Forex. So I'm not a Forex trader. I have traded futures and I have traded commodities, but I don't actively trade anything else. Stocks and options and cryptocurrencies are my main go-to. And once you get to understand options as well, like if there's one incredible skill for people to really, really, truly master, is option trading. If people want aggressive and explosive growth opportunities, it doesn't mean that they have to, but if they are intrigued about 100, 200, 300% returns on companies like Apple, Facebook, Google, Pinterest, Activision, they have to learn options. So it just doesn't matter if it's stocks or if it's options or if it's cryptocurrencies. I think I probably have 90% of my investments into liquid assets, and then 9% of my investment is into me. And then 1% is in physical assets. So houses, real estate, and things that are less liquid. So gold, silver, things like that. So the 9% is investing into courses, webinars, classes, personal coaches, mentors that can teach me things. And that's, for me, I've spent probably more money on that last year than anything, man, by far. It's not even close.
Yeah, I think that's a good part. It kind of reminds me of my article I released this week called based on Millionaire Key Number 3, which is get money smart. If you want to be good with money, you got to take time to study money, right? And
That's it, baby.
Yeah, it's like, hey, man, and people have heard me say this, you spend 12 years in school learning math, English, and science. You go on to college. If you go 4 years, for me, it was engineering. So I'm getting a lot more math, English, and science all over again. And not once in there, I took an economics class for a semester, but I mean, that was it for after 16 years of school. That's all I got. And so, of course, you're bad with money. Of course, you're in debt. Of course, you're making bad decisions because no one ever taught you this stuff. So you gotta figure out how to learn it and do it yourself and put the effort in. And I love what you said. 9% of your money. I would be curious, what percentage of your time?
Into myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least 60%, at least, because the active trading for me doesn't actually require that much time. Again, once you understand how to do it, when people say the rich get richer, it's really true because it's super easy, right? When you have a lot more money, it's like, wow, like you can just, like, you don't care. So you can just put it in there and it starts working for you. You can build and appreciate and grow incredibly quickly. And it allows you to spend, as people want, the time and the freedom to do whatever you want to do. If it's hang out with your children, with your family, with your extended family, vacations, whatever it is that you want to do, give, provide, go, mission trips, doesn't matter. You have the ability to, because now you're free. And that, my friend, is really what I seek. Freedom is my paradise. So I want to go after the ability to just hang with people I care about, spend time with people I care about, but do it in a totally free environment where it's not pressured. Like, where's the next bill? What's happening? Why is this about to occur? Just really be in a state of flow and simplicity is kind of where I seek to go.
Yeah. And I love how you said that. And just to piggyback on it,
sure.
9% of your money, your investment goes into yourself. So you're growing yourself, investing in yourself, but 60% of your time, why that's so significant is statistically 120, the average American spends 120 hours a month watching television. And so that's like, 60% of their time, not quite 60, it's probably more like 40% of their time is going into the wrong thing that bears no fruit whatsoever. It's just brain dead activity. It's not growing you. It's not improving you. It's not helping you with your future. It's not helping you with your wealth. It's, for all intensive purposes, I'm just going to say it. Sports broadcasting is a waste of time. If you want to build something useful. Now, is it going to relax you? Does it entertain you? Yeah. But when you look at your time and where your time goes, that's one of your most precious assets. And what happens is you end up squandering your time, which just creates almost like this chain effect, right?
Yeah.
Of where your life goes. If you don't manage your time well, then you're not going to manage your finances well. You're going to miss opportunities, and you're not going to be able to build wealth, and you're going to struggle when you get older. So there's a whole downstream effect that happens if you don't manage your time well. So I love that you're doing that
Thanks, man.
with your time. Give me one or two things that you think are the most key things you've done as far as that annual kind of reinvestment in yourself, both money and time.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think the number one for me would be to work with someone who is inspiring to you, who you've always looked up to, and figure out a way to spend both time and money to be with that person. And one of those people for me is a guy named Jesse Itzler. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or if he's ever been on your show, but he is married to Sarah Blakely, who is one of the richest women in the world. She invented Spanx, which is like a multi-billion-dollar company. Yeah. So Jesse Itzler, he's an ultra marathon runner. He wrote the best-selling book, Living with a Seal, and a few other really good books. He's also part owner of the Atlanta Hawks. Anyway, long story short, I love this guy. I like what he does. I like everything about him. He's just really, really cerebrally intensive, but he's also just very present. So I would go and spend time to both read his books, be in his classes, be in his webinars, be in his seminars, and go to his live events. And I would spend the money to do that as well. So both the time and the money to just be around the people that I want to emulate. And for me, man, that would be number one, is come up with some type of stretch goal for those who are listening of like, I want to work with this particular person, whoever it might be, and figure out a way to be in their surroundings and figure out if you can work with them one-on-one, or if you can go through a program with them or a course with them or something where you can be in that person's presence and just enjoy their mental capacity, right? That's a life-changing experience, man, because my dad said your network equals your net worth. When you're hanging around people that you want to emulate, they probably also have a lot of other people that are amazing that you can interact with, and you start becoming friends with these people.
Yeah, I think that's great. And, coaching, I tried to, when I worked in a previous job, tried to hire some coaching, but it was kind of frowned upon. It's just not something that the organization really looked into or did. But looking
it's weird.
back,
it's weird because it's an intangible asset, Tony. That's the thing, man. Like when you buy something like that, you are not getting any physical benefit. You can't hold it. Yeah. Exactly. You can't hold it. Like it's a mental thing. And that's so many people. We grow up believing if you're buying something, it needs to be physical. And that's why I love that you invested in crypto, man. It's amazing because so many people are terrified by that. Cause like, what is a Bitcoin? I can't hold it. I'm like, you don't hold most of the cash that you have either. Like you've never held a stock. You don't hold anything that you're investing in. You don't know what a mutual fund is. You never held a mutual fund. So it just changes people's beliefs and thoughts about what money is. And man, once that would be part number two to answer your question previously of things that you can do to really, really pour into your soul is start analyzing your beliefs and thoughts about money and find out if you can change those beliefs, right? Find out if you can go down certain rabbit holes where you didn't know that you had that particular, what I refer to as a money block, right? Everyone has money blocks. Everyone. Doesn't matter if it's Mark Cuban, me, or you. We all have some money blocks somewhere. And one of mine used to be about flying first class. Right. I thought it was way too expensive. I was like, there's no point in flying first class. This is dumb. And then I had one of my coaches was like, well, dude, do it. Just do it. Spend the money. You got the money. Just go do it. I did it. Life-changing. Right. Life-changing. Life altering, man. And then I would just start to do random things that like give more money to a server. Instead of tipping 30%, I would tip 100%. Right. Every meal I went to for a whole year. Like if you want a life-changing experience, that's one, right? That'll stretch you, man. Pour it out, because then you get people who cry and hug and love on you, and you just feel so good. So your brain's like, how do we make more money so that we can give more away? Because I love all these hugs.
I love what you're saying there. And you gave me so much right there I need to comment on, but it really comes back to my thinking right now, because I would say from age 25 to 40, I was doing what I needed to do to build wealth, or at least some of what I needed to do. There's some things I would change if I could go back, rewind the clock. But I would say in the new iteration, as I've written my book, I'm doing my podcast.
Yep.
I've come up with this concept of the purpose of wealth,
Mm.
which is going, you know what? Before I was making money because it was the right thing to do. It's better to make money, save money, earn money, and multiply it than it is to like make it and spend it, right? Because that doesn't take you anywhere. So that was my mindset up to this point. Now my point is to go, you know what? I got a purpose for making wealth now. Like there's a purpose for doing it, and that's to make the world a better place. That's to impact the people's lives who I come in contact with. That's to help the single moms, to help the orphans, to help the whatever.
Boom.
And the more of that money I can generate, the more of that I can do. And so I didn't have that purpose, until, I would say probably the last 2 years. It's like, whoa, like my whole mindset is shifting here. It's time to have a purpose. Like, so when I go back and reach, the high levels of I had as success as a corporate guy, at the top of the corporate channel, making really, really, really good money. I miss it. In this next version of myself, I'm like, oh, but this version is going to be so much better. This version of me is going to be so much better than that last version of me.
Yeah,
because of this purpose. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you. Like, you got a purpose. Like, I like tipping waitresses 100%.
Yes.
That feels good to me. I have a purpose. If I make more money, I can do more of that, and I can impact and affect people's lives financially a lot more. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, it's incredible to have something that makes you push through all the hard times, because some people can be pushed and some people can be pulled. You get to decide, are you pushed by your problems or pulled by your dreams? And I want to be pulled by my dreams, right? I want to be pulled by the force of love and generosity and helpfulness and just caring, rather than pushed by, like you said earlier, like just trying to obtain money. Money is irrelevant. It was seashells 400 years ago or 1,000 years ago. It changes, man, and the concept of money changes, and the idea of money changes, and what money actually is massively, massively changes. So I think it's incredible for us to always just try to innovate and try to think of new ways and new concepts that we can slowly shift, because a lot of us go, yep, I'm right. I believe this. This is what I believe. I know it's correct because it's worked. And just like this podcast and you reaching out to people, I would love people to know how much time and energy you put into this, and how professional you are, and how caring you are, and how you sent me so many emails and made sure I was at the right place at the right time and just gave me all the outline. That requires so much time on your part, because in doing this, you're going to be able to impact someone who you've never met before, and they're going to take they're going to take what you've taught and how you've taught and the guests that you brought on the show, and they're going to actually change their life. And they're going to change their families' lives. And you're going to be able to create ripples in the universe from doing this. And so that's a mission, man. That is a purpose. And that's what's exciting.
Oh, you get me jazzed up. You get me jazzed up.
Yeah, dude.
So, hey, let me tell you. Yeah, so we got to wrap up the show. I wish we could go. I wish this was a 2-hour show.
I know.
A 45-minute show. So we're going to have you back on. But you said something earlier, and I'm going to plant the seed with you because I need help solving this issue.
Okay.
So I don't want to be at this for the next 20 or 30 years teaching people about personal finance.
Sure.
And the statistics still be the same. 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. I'm pretty sure that was a number, 30 years ago. Like that number's not changing. That's not fine with me. That's not good for me. Like I can't do this and not change that statistic. So I have to look at this problem differently. I don't want to just go make money making a podcast or make money selling a book or make money speaking. I want to fundamentally come up with ways to change that number. Like in my world, and you guys have heard me say it on the show here, in my world, there's only 2 types of people: millionaires and future millionaires. That's it. There's no poverty. There's no low income. There's no middle class. It's just millionaires and future millionaires.
I love that. That's
if you're listening to this show, that's what it's all about. If you don't believe that, then, and you need to help me spread that. You guys that are listening, you need to help spread that. You got to go, hey, let's go listen to this guy that tells me I can be a future millionaire. He's trying to show me how to do it. Now, here's my thing. I just had a meeting with a pastor last week, and I'm really hung up on the Christian church and how they're going around asking for money for, all the time, but not teaching people how to make the money that they're asking for.
Here he goes.
And that's really bothering me, right? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were all the founding fathers of the faith. They're all rich dudes, like all of them. They had the most goats, the most sheep, the most servants. They had them all, right? So what's the problem with wealth in the church? So I'm talking to this pastor. He's an amazing guy, and I'm hoping he's going to help me do this. But I think and you said something earlier that is, I'm keying in on this, and it starts with the financial mindset change. You've got to change the way you're thinking. That's the first step. A 6-year-old kid, Jerremy Newsome, because of Forrest Gump, changed the way he thought about money in a broke family. That's where it starts. So, and it has to be portable. So here's my idea. 1 year, you can totally transform the lives of every family member, every family, every person in an organization in 1 year. And here's how you do it. It's 12 books by 12 authors over 12 months. So one financial book a month for 12 months that's spearheaded by the head of the organization. So if a pastor will bring that philosophy into the church and go, hey, we are changing the way our church and the kingdom of God thinks about money in our church. And we're going to have a 1-year journey. And at the end of this journey, our mindset is going to shift. And when we come out of this 1-year journey, we're going to have an abundance kingdom mindset. And we are going to transform our finances of ourselves, then our community. And you talk about a ripple. You said ripples in the universe.
Let's get it, son.
That's what you're going to start. You are going to set off a chain effect of ripples that you cannot even predict how big it's going to be.
Give me goosebumps.
Right now, man. I'm getting them too, man. I'm getting the goosebumps too. So I know we're short on time. That's my thought. That's the first time I've ever said that on air.
I love it.
That's what I'm working on. I need people to pick that up and run with it. And I'll be publishing a white paper on it here pretty soon. Jerremy, thanks for being on my show, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, I hope that we can do it again because we have so much more to talk about. And I know we live close, and I'm very confident that we're going to meet extremely soon.
So how are people going to find out more about you and get plugged into what you're doing?
Easiest thing to do, man, is go to my website, reallifetrading.com, and go take all the free education and free resources you can handle. You can binge watch everything. It's all free. It's all there. It's all available. And I would love for them to just contact me. If you want to email me, you can. It's my first name, last name at Gmail. I have a website, Jerremy at reallifetrading.com, Jerremy Newsome at gmail.com, Gerald Ariel at arielbvi.com. I have so many different emails. Find me on Instagram. You can Google me. I'm everywhere. So you can't miss me, even if you wanted to.
All right, man. I'm going to probably give you a call next week. We need to see if we can get into a lunch appointment.
Let's do it. I love that, man. That'd be amazing.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
The Millionaire Choice Show shares the opinions and experiences of people and should not be considered financial advice. Before making your own financial choices, please seek out a registered financial advisor or certified financial planner.